Hello, welcome back to the call. This is libp2p. Emily will be note-taking. David Daesh will be leading the call today. So go ahead.
Thank you. I just killed my browser, so I need to open my tabs again. Give me a second. All right. So does everyone has the Etherpad open? All right. So on libp2p, libp2p is always this call to talk about Go libp2p and just libp2p. Mostly the energy that has been put in libp2p has been like to fulfill the needs of IPFS. So like everything that we set on the roadmap for libp2p is always like what just IPFS or Go IPFS needs. However, especially with recent events from the last couple of months, and maybe more and more people are interested in using libp2p. And right now it's pretty exclusive. Like it is really hard to get into because there is no entry point, there is no documentation. Like basically there is no work done in developer UX. Of course, there's a lot of features that need to be built, and like things that like PubSub are on the libp2p scope, and we already talked about that. Routing, the DHT, are also on libp2p scope, but we already talked about that. There is things like improving connectivity, which we'll cover in a second. But yeah, like one of the things that we need to step up our game for this quarter so that we welcome the community that already wants to be part of libp2p to join the effort, and we enable that. So cool. Going through the agenda. So, and it's not by chance that the first item in the agenda is developer UX. We need to write better tutorials. Right now we have the libp2p spec. It has something that hasn't been gotten any love for quite some time. Writing a spec and like hoping that the spec is a good entry point for people to learn is not a good idea. What we really need is like use cases or even little tools with libp2p that people can use, apps that they can see, they can check out, and like they can see the power. I'm a strong believer of screencasts, like just like 2-minute videos explaining, hey, like I just connected to nodes that were behind nets, and now like it's all authenticated, and I can open more streams, and like it works. And that's very powerful to communicate out these things are useful. One of the things that we don't have so far is the interface with peer-to-peer, which makes more sense than ever. In the JS world, we already have a pseudo interface defined because we have two implementations of libp2p, JavaScript, and Go, but we actually have 3 builds of libp2p. The one that's used by IPFS in Go IPFS, the one that's used by IPFS in IPFS for Node.js, and the one that's used by IPFS in IPFS for the browser. So there are 3 builds, and this IPFS for the browser and Node follow the same interface so that we can change between Node and the browser without changing the code base. The discovery mechanism primitives are the same, the dialing primitives are the same, the routing primitives are the same, all things are the same. But this is just like made using rule of thumb, like just hiring it out and say, oh, this looks the same, doesn't break, it works. We don't have a battery of tests to prove that these libp2p implementations actually follow the same interface as we do for all of the other modules. So yeah, we need to get an interface with peer-to-peer, something that people can check how it works and how to use it, and that we can have more builds to fulfill other people's specific needs. Cool. So yeah, a lot of these will be discussed this week, and like again, following the same JS IPFS proposal, we need to come up with like lists of tasks for these endeavors and like be very comprehensive so that we understand the amount of effort and energy that has to be put onto these things. Let me see any hands. Okay, next up, website. So Richard has been working a lot on the libp2p website, and this is going to be very important for developer experience as well. It is, again, it's going to be the TLDR of the spec, the things that you need to know, the features, where you can get the examples, where you can get the tutorials. Right now, I know, Richard, I'm so sorry. I'm like the one blocking that because I need to review the content. but yeah, like it is an ongoing process. Richard has put a lot of work into it, similar to multi-formats and IPLD, and we are getting the website, and it will be done this quarter. Maybe at least first version should be out this month for sure. Richard is happy. Awesome. Cool. And with the website, will also come the questions of making sure that we have the right examples, the right interfaces, the right language to explain peer-to-peer, and so on. Cool. Next up is peer routing and content routing. As like we already mentioned this in GoIPFS and JSIPFS, like it is the DHT, getting a way to find content on the network without having to dial directly to the nodes. I believe this was enough, like sufficiently covered. Would someone like to add anything on this? Doesn't seem like it. Cool. Relay was also covered. Relay is like one of those things that we know it's going to improve a lot our connectivity, but also it will enable like apps like Orbit to work on the browser without being worried. Like it will enable apps like Orbit or that want to deploy to the browser, and they know that we will be able to dial to any node in the network that is accessible without having a common transport. Again, relay is when like we have nodes that are behind the net that needs like they need to have some kind of relay to like get out of the net, or when they have different transport from the node that's trying to dial them, WebRTC, TCP, for example, and they need some middle node that speaks both, so that they can get a connection going. Of course, like this has like a little bit of overhead, but like it guarantees the connectivity, and that's what we are looking for. Cool. Quick. Would you like? I can talk about. Well, would you like to fill in the quick part? Juan, do you like to fill in the quick part? I think it's
yeah. So there is a number of quick implementations. There's at least one is libquick, which is somebody's attempt at extracting quick from Chromium. This is not yet a supported version, though the quick team has made some directions in that route. But there's a standalone Go implementation of quick written by Lucas Clemente. He is presenting it at .go, I think, this week. So there's only the server part of it at the moment, but I actually reached out to him and talked to him about writing the client part, and so we'll be working with him on that. And he is also going to write it into a libp2p transport. And then we're also, and that feeds into the XTP work as well, that I can talk about in a moment. But so quick is a very real possibility within the next few months, potentially in this quarter or the following, at least for Go. For JavaScript, getting access to quick will be harder, though the Chrome team is working right now on putting WebSockets on top of quick, so that there's no head of line blocking. So once that is there, then you can get WebSockets naturally using quick in the browser. In Node, it will probably take still a longer time. So I don't know what the story fully is there, but I think we can probably see quick as a transport relatively soon.
There's also an effort inside the Chrome team of getting a quick underneath WebRTC. So that's like something that they're working on. Yeah. So.
Oh, sorry. Yes. WebRTC, not WebSockets.
Okay. I was trying to check like that working WebSocket. Cool. Do you like to jump into XTP because it's kind of like connected?
Yeah. So all of this transport work requires, or we think requires, this tool that I've been calling XTP for now. XTP is external transport. The point of XTP is to isolate a transport in a different process, and this is to get around a couple of problems. One is that you accidentally ship an implementation that is very young and has a ton of problems, and then your network dies. This happened to us with a UTP implementation. And another problem is the implementation may not be in a language or distribution packaging of your choice, meaning it might be in C and you don't want to use CGO. It might be in C and you might be in the browser. Like there's a bunch of things, right? So to get around that problem, XTP isolates some transport implementation in a process, and then allows you to connect to that to some server and like control the transport from an interprocess perspective. There is an interface being written about this now, and then once the interface is once I'm pretty happy with it, then we can think about like actually implementing it. So this could happen this quarter, could happen next quarter. I would think this is like a nice to have. I wouldn't think that unless we decide that, hey, this is absolutely super important, let's just ship it, which I would be very happy to get to. But it is something kind of on the fringe. It is required for us to be able to go into all these other transports like Bluetooth, Quick, and any other kind of thing that where we need to like bundle in a bunch of C.
Sweet, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, then like we can even have like browser extensions with the transport, so that like browser types can like do them. It's going to be pretty sweet. Or we can have browser types that open WebRTC transport for other implementations, so that we can have WebRTC for all the other implementations. Sweet. Cool. The amount of the mountain.
The dream is coming true.
The dream is coming true. It was so big. Cool. So the next two items I kind of like touched as well. So improved connectivity and network lab. So improved connectivity is like a very broad term. We keep throwing it around, but it really means like just making sure that like IPFS can dial in situations that are kind of obnoxious to deal with. And this comes from like doing stuff like relay, packet switching, better NAT reversal, even like just making sure that we handle connections properly, because we kind of like keep a lot of connections open for a very long time. And apparently, as Jeremy says, like it's impossible to kill connections because they just come back to life very quickly. So onto that effort, there's like something that we really need to review this, because like it's a very broad, and like we need to like factor this very broad milestone and like make it into several smaller milestones that are like more achievable. It was known as a milestone 2 of libp2p, which was not necessarily correct, and we had to rethink that. And then comes the network lab. So the network lab is a name for a thing that we have been talking about for many months, and it's just like having hardware to test network connectivity, like a bunch of tiny computers, Raspberry Pis, 564s, whatever, and routers that we can configure, and like we can have test scripts to run over this setup, and we can like test IPFS on those situations. It is something that I'm sure that a lot of Mesh communities will be very excited once we get it, because it's a way to test like network protocols, like configuring routers remotely with different setups, and then running tests over it is something that it is not easily found as a solution. Like people still do a lot of these tests manually, or just like setting up stuff manually and like trying to infer what's going on. If we get like this network lab working in a way that we can like automate it and repeat it often, and like set up different configurations very quickly, and then we can just like leave it running, and then like host all of these tests for us and for other people. I do know that Jeremy has been thinking a lot about it, and has already a bunch of routers at his place that he's like working towards getting at. I also have a bunch of routers at my place, and a bunch of like Raspberry Pis that I want to use for this, which means that we can have even like 2 network labs across continents, which might be fun as well. And again, like we don't have a comprehensive list yet of things that have to happen for this, because it's kind of like a huge endeavor, a huge undertaking, but something that everyone is like pretty excited. And I see that Lars is excited too, because he has his hand raised.
Yes, just a quick point. Whenever you hear someone say they have NAT issues, ask them what model of a router they have, because many of the routers, especially those handed out by ISPs, are crap. And yeah, and we want to get a model of those just to add them to the test bed.
Yeah, That's a very good point. Probably it should be one of the items on that GitHub issue template on GoIPFS. If people are able to give their router description model. This, yeah, cool. Thank you. All right, so
10 minutes.
10 minutes. We are good on time for this. Thank you. The next one is CCC keys in JavaScript. So now like Go supports CCC keys, but not on peer IDs and peer infos. Actually, I saw this recently and I didn't have the chance to review it all. I do know that like we want to support multiple keys. That's like the multi-key effort and key store. We now support ECC keys on libp2p crypto. Do you use them for anything at all, or we are just like exposing that primitive? Can someone fill in on this?
On the Go side?
Yeah.
We're not using them yet, but we have them merged in so that when we do use them, more clients are able to handle them.
Okay.
Can you unmute yourself while you're talking?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So they're merged into the code base right now, and they'll be in the 0.4.5 release. But we're probably not going to enable them for use as peer ID keys in that release, because if you using an ECC key as your peer ID, you will not be able to talk to any peer who cannot handle parsing the ECC keys. So anything before 0.4.5 will not be able to handle that, and you'll just like segment the network. So we're going to push out support in one release, and in the following release, we'll be able to add that as an option for peer IDs, just to make sure that you don't accidentally like, oh, I can't talk to anybody. What's going on? Sort of thing. But the media chain people are using the code we wrote for that in part of their signing libraries. So it's pretty cool.
I see. So,
Muting.
Yep. So what they want for the short term is having these crypto primitives exposed so that they can use in their code base. Okay. So that means that like people are using the crypto library inside IPFS directly. That's interesting.
Yep.
I guess we should expose that on the IPFS object. So this way, like people don't have to require 2 times crypto libraries, which typically are big. Okay, we should add that.
I think it would be valuable to, like that crypto stuff is really, it's not the IPFS crypto, it's the P2P crypto, I think.
Yeah.
And that could be a module on its own that people could like selectively take in. However, I don't know how you do the keys because multi-key will matter. And so the keys will have to be rerolled.
So libp2p crypto is already a module of its own. What I was just thinking is it might be useful to have like ipfs.libp2p.crypto exposed, like through the IPFS instance, so that people don't have to require again and have to go through like the mess of like having different libp2p crypto versions and like bundling several times the same thing. Although like now libp2p crypto is getting way smaller with all the changes to sync crypto. And Friedel has something to say. Go ahead, Friedel.
Yeah, just about the libp2p crypto module. Actually, it's getting smaller and larger at the same time. It's getting smaller in size, but much larger in functionality at the moment. Because what I did in JS with the latest changes is that I actually pulled all crypto methods effectively that I used throughout libp2p into libp2p crypto. And because in Go you can like use the standard library, but in JavaScript we don't have a standard library, so I pulled this all into the P2P crypto, and so it actually does much more now than Go libp2p. But it's super nice because you now have like it's one library, and you're like, okay, I require this, and I have all the methods, and it's like a way to abstract all of this.
Sweet. That's awesome. Do we have to make sure all those methods are documented on P2P crypto?
They are.
Thank you. All right. So I believe we.
So technical point, we have 5 minutes.
Thank you again. Cool. One, I believe we covered all the points you had there. let's go to PubSub testnet. So Gavin has been working in all of this and making it really cool. I see that there's now a UI. I'm excited. Tell us more.
Yeah, so basically if you just head to the repo, the docs are pretty straightforward. You can just give it a run. You run npm start and it'll visualize whatever topology you give it. You can use a couple of out-of-the-box ones, and then it'll dump an event log for you, stream events to the client, and give you some basic stats. So it's the stats are propagation time right now, but getting a little bit of usage on it for people who are wanting to develop PubSub strategies, that's going to kind of inform the rest of it. So feel free to check out the repo, and feedback's kind of where we're at next.
Sweet. Okay. Definitely we'll check it and work on getting like the flood hub on top of this testnet. We probably can work a lot into making all of this work agnostic, like independent of like a libp2p node or a JSIPFS node, because after all the primitives for dialing are the same, because it's the same thing that's dialing, and then we can use this also to spawn like JSIPFS nodes and like use bitswap tests on top of it. Like use the same visualization or repurpose the same visualization for PubSub propagation to the bitswap blocks. But yeah, that's really exciting. Thank you also, as always, for like going through all of that and like building all of it. Yeah. Do you have like would you like to add anything that you are planning to do from now, or like I know that we are blocking you by not having because we need to review and do the integration, but is there anything that we can provide right now in terms of information, answering any questions?
No, I'll probably start picking stuff off the to-dos. But yeah, getting feedback on top of this is probably the best thing.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so we are 2 minutes from the end. Anyone has anything else to add, to ask, to?
Can I talk about what I'd like to do with this?
Oh, sure. Please do.
So hi, I'm Kamavis. I come to you from the land of Ethereum. I have a Chrome extension called MetaMask, and it injects the Ethereum application standard into your browser. So it has about 3,000 installs. I don't know how many concurrent users we have, but I'd like to move to an Ethereum-like client built on libp2p sometime in the near to medium term. In the meantime, it would be really cool to take some of these tests. I didn't know this PSTN repo existed, and this is fantastic. If we could take this, make it run on WebRTC, and then just put it in MetaMask and kind of hide it in the background, we could do long-running network tests and see how the network does over long periods of time. And I would love to do this. So tell me how. As you've said, the dev UX is a little wonky at this point. I've probably read through about 30 different GitHub repo readmes, and I'm not sure where to start. But I love all this stuff, and I love the modular approach. I just don't exactly know how to enter all of it. So
Thank you.
There's probably a README somewhere that you didn't read through yet.
If not, if you can't find it, write another one. That way we can have 20.
I'm sorry.
And then put it somewhere where nobody expects it.
We've been talking exactly about that lack of clear documentation.
Okay, so that's like the best feedback. That's the best feedback of all time. Yeah, so thank you. That's exciting. Let's make it happen. So as we discussed during these calls, like we definitely want to beef up our documentation, but I think we can even like start working on it and like get something working and use that as an example so that we can like collaborate in the meantime while we don't have like these like really beautiful docs on the WebRTC. Yeah, like on the WebRTC part. So right now, like the PubSub testnet really runs everything in Node.js for enabling it with WebRTC. It means that you just have to add the WebRTC star transport and spawn the nodes in Chrome instead of nodes. I do know that like from Bottle experience or scars that spawning 3,000 nodes in browsers is not the same thing. Like in one machine is not the same thing as nodes. So we can make it work, but probably we can reduce the size of the tests for the PubSub testnet, and then just get that working so that we can deploy it on MetaMask and see the nodes coming from several machines and connecting to this network. Hopefully without bringing things. Juan has something to say.
Theoretically, you could spin up one Phantom instance and then spin up a lot of tabs on that, right?
So Phantom doesn't have WebRTC, but we can spawn one Chrome instance and then spin a lot of tabs. But when you overload the browser with a lot of WebRTC channels, all linking, because again, WebRTC star will try to convince the browser to dial to all the other nodes, creating a huge mesh. And then if we start propagating messages over those channels, it's the WebRTC Explorer all over again, just kills the memory of the browser. So yeah, we can make it work, and we can definitely have 10 or more nodes spawn on one machine and see it's propagating messages and send a lot of messages through PubSub, and it will work. But we will not have 3,000 Gavin tests are spawning.
We should make sure that that it's not really connecting to all nodes. So before Kubernetes puts it into MetaMask and so on, we should make sure that the topology forming is such that you don't end up with a huge super connected mesh. That it keeps a degree small, right? That it says it's only connected to say 10 nodes each, and then it maybe cycles them. So this is a little bit more functionality than what's there in FloodSub now. And it's the beginnings of tree forming. But you could at the very least start with something simple gossip oriented.
Great. Yeah. We can have we can use a packet switch overlay to have the nodes to route the messages to all the other ones, for example, or we can even be evil and just have a dashboard with all the nodes connected and say connect okay, I'll pick these 50 ones and let me connect all of them and run a test over it. Because also when we are running tests over all of those MetaMask nodes, it will just be something that happens from time to time. We are not going to be running tests.
Well, still, people are running that, so it needs to be a very small resource constrained thing, right? You can only use it only to know that the thing works with thousands of nodes and run very little message on it, because these are people that have these browsers running. You can't just peg their network or peg the CPU.
I guess. Okay, so yeah, let's make sure that that is one of the items of this week, and that we come up with the things that we need to do, and we start working later this week or earlier next week to make sure that we unblock all the things that need to happen. Cool, thank you. This is awesome. Any other things that someone might know? I guess we are 4 minutes over. This was the last meeting, so yeah. Thank you, Emily, for not getting so it was great to see you all. I guess we will continue having conversations today. And yeah.
Alrighty. So that ends our sprint calls.